In today's 16th episode of the Sports and Psychology podcast, we are hopping in with a guest for the first time. We have Abbe here, and she's going to talk about her sports upbringing and why she's leaned into sports psychology, why she's studying it, and what she's hoping to get out of it. So if you're someone who's interested in sports psychology, what maybe some of the sports psychologists go through to get there, and obviously love a good bio, a good interview with someone who's been at a very high level of sports, then you're right where you want to be. Hello, buenos dias, dobrý den, ohayo gozaimasu. Welcome to the Sports and Psychology podcast, your weekly pod where we talk all things athletes, tactics, performance, and most importantly, mindset. I am your host, letting them three balls fly, Cord Thomas. I'm a mindset coach specializing in sports psychology, performance, stress, and anxiety reduction and mental preparation, having helped hundreds of clients and tens of professional athletes exceed their potential, reach their goals, and lead fulfilling lives. After becoming a two-time Taekwondo junior Olympic medalist and moving from the US to Europe to study and play basketball, I found my passion in the psychology of success. Before we hop into things, do me a favor, hit that follow button below the video or the pod to get updates on new episodes. And if you're here with me on YouTube, hit me with a like and a comment. Thank you for making the Sports and Psychology pod your first weekly morning listen. If you want to reach out and connect with me or join in our mailbag episode, you can find me on Instagram at athlete.m1ndsect, that's athlete.mindset, Twitter, athlete mindset, athlete m1ndsect, or email me at sportsandpsychologypod@gmail.com. All right, so let's hop into things. Welcoming in Abbe Rank here, and let me see if I can do a good bio. So about to graduate from Defiance College in Ohio in May with her bachelor's degree, triple majored. That's a thing for Americans. For us here in Europe, that's really confusing. I hope you'll let me know more what that means. But social work, psychology, and criminal justice with a minor in autism studies. And then grad school, so starting next year at the University of North Texas to get a dual master's in kinesiology with a sports psychology focus and clinical mental health counseling. I love that. Abbe played soccer soccer, football, what have you, at Defiance College, where she tied for the Team Freshman Award in her freshman year in 2019. And has gotten the all-conference academic awards 5 times. So that's quite amazing. And somewhere there was played basketball in high school. I'm a big basketball fan, so always got to go back to basketball. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk soccer today. It's been a long time. All right, so let's welcome Abbe Rank to the Sports and Psychology podcast. Abbe, welcome. Thankful that you're here. Love that you're our first guest. That's amazing. Awesome. So first of all, maybe if you can do this for me, introduce yourself, because I did your beautiful academic introduction. What would you say about yourself?
I kind of just grew up playing sports. I was playing soccer for, 17, 18 years. And that was kind of my life. And then, you go to college and you're not really sure what you want to do. And I went to college thinking I was going to be a policeman, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So then through my experiences and stuff, I found that sports psych was kind of what I was passionate about, and that's what I decided. So
I love that. There's somewhere in statistics, something I tell clients a lot is that between the years of 18 and 25, a normal person changes their idea about their career something like 6 times. So definitely sticking to that, definitely accurate. And I'm excited to hear what you have to tell us, because you've had an interesting sports career. I think maybe more than anywhere else, Americans really grow up with sport, that it's almost culturally a part of everyday life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Did your parents go to like all your matches and things?
Oh yeah, my parents were there at every game. My dad used to coach me when I was little for a couple of years, and then like through club and through like indoor seasons, I don't know if you guys have that there, but in America we have like indoor soccer and that kind of stuff, which is really fun and it's different atmosphere.
Yeah, soccer is quite big here. I would say probably second biggest to hockey. So there's indoor hockey, there's definitely also indoor soccer for the winter. I'm not sure that it's taken as seriously though here as in the US. I feel like that's maybe one of the few sports that if you play soccer, like you really do it year round in the US. I feel like everyone else is doing 2, 3, 4 sports like I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving on. First question. So talk to me first about your experience with sports at the college level. How was it different to high school? How was it the same? Was it harder, easier? You're at a D3 college, right? So that's quite a decent level.
Yeah. From high school to college, it was kind of a big jump because I was lucky to have a big group of seniors when I came in as a freshman. So from high school, this is how I think about it is like when you're playing with everyone, there's a few people who stand out in high school, and then all of those people that stand out go to college. So you're all playing at the same level, and you have to learn to work together. So we created a culture where we wanted to be a team. So I came in and it was amazing my freshman year before COVID, and we I started a lot of the games and got a lot of playing time as a freshman, which was pretty awesome. And I think all of our freshmen as a group, we all scored like 2 or 3 goals apiece, and it was amazing. And then when we go into conference, which is like your league that you play in, because you have out of conference and conference, we take conference a little bit different. So, you hype yourself up differently. You have we had a big talk in the locker room before every game, and it was an amazing atmosphere to be in compared to high school because, some people are just playing to play. So that's, kind of my experience with it. I loved college soccer though. It's really fast paced too.
Faster than at the high school level.
Oh yeah.
Did you in the US with sports, there aren't as many opportunities to kind of jump and change levels, I feel like. Was it for you, would you compare it to say junior high, high school, or was it even a bigger jump, high school to college?
For sure it was a bigger jump, high school to
Bigger
college.
jump.
Especially because you have to, you get scouted and stuff, and people come to your games and coaches will come watch you, but you really have to stand out as a person because coaches don't look for you just as an athlete. They want, the person too. So, sorry, you can hear my dog in the background.
I can hear the puppy. That's okay.
But you have to reach out to coaches and, you kind of have to show what you're there for, that you're still there for school.
Oh, interesting. So really heavily into that academic piece as well.
Yeah, for sure.
How has it been trying to, or when you were playing, because now you've stopped, how was it trying to keep up with studies while you were playing? Was it doable or was it more soccer is the priority and school takes a bit of a back burner?
I was lucky to go to a school that valued both athletes in class and off the field as well. So I, would go to my professors. I was one of those people that had the schedule printed out and I highlighted the days for the professors that I wouldn't be there because we'd be traveling. A lot of our games, so Ohio's up in the north, it's kind of near Canada. So we would travel 6 hours for games sometimes. And so if we were gone on a Friday, you'd miss all your classes. So that's kind of hard to, pick back up. But then if you have a relationship with your professors, they'll catch you up. And then, then you have that bond. And if you need help in class, which that really helped me. So it's not as bad, but you have to put in the work too.
I think I'm thinking about it or coming at it from the European culture of clubs where sport and school are never connected.
Yeah.
There isn't really a level here where the two would be connected. So you play for a club and they're not really interested in your academics other than the fact that probably you being decent in school makes you a better player. And if you want to go to university, fine, but your contract is with us, the club. So go to university in your time that you're not with us. And there isn't that equal level of, say, prioritizing it. Some clubs obviously try and they want their athletes to be, I don't want to put down the clubs here. There is space for it, but it's a very different dynamic than having the sport built into the school. On the other hand, it does allow for a lot more farming, is what I would call it, bringing players up through the ranks. If you could imagine, I don't know, who's your favorite professional soccer team?
Well, so I've kind of followed Carly Lloyd. So I've had multiple, but I followed her around because she used to play for Gotham and then she retired. So right now I'm kind of like in between because I used to like the teams that she played on.
But if you could imagine growing up with training with Gotham, being on their kids' teams, on their high school team, it's a very different feel, which is more the European style. You grow up with the same teams. You're just in a youth team with the same jersey and everything that the adult men's team or adult women's team is playing for. So it's different. And for me, it's fun to talk about these differences. But thank you for doing that introduction. And I kind of mentioned it quickly. So can you mention it also for the pod? Why did you stop with soccer?
I stopped playing soccer. It'll be a year in May. So last May, I was still recovering from a shoulder injury that I had that past October. But I went through 2 hip surgeries my first 2 years, and then when I had the shoulder surgery, I was out for such a long time that I couldn't put my body back through, getting back into shape and putting that pressure on my hip. So I was then MDQ'd, medically disqualified, and I actually coached this year though.
Awesome. How was that experience coaching?
It was a lot different because it was like the people I used to be on the pitch with.
Yeah. Were you struggling with respect levels there?
Not really. Everyone kind of knew my role, and so it was a mutual thing, and we all were pretty close on the team. And we had a new coach come in this year, so it was fun getting to know him and learning with him because he was a really good teacher.
So maybe someday a future in coaching as well?
Yeah, I want to do that through grad school.
Awesome. All right. Question number 2 from me here. So what attracted, like we said in the bio, you've already started studying social work, psychology. What attracted you really to this area of study? Was it the injury, or were you already, you were already leaning in this direction before that, right?
Yeah, I came in as a freshman and one of my teammates was like, hey, you should take a social work class, see how you like it. And then I kind of fell in love with like the field of mental health. And then we had COVID, my injury happened, all that kind of stuff. And I struggled being away from my sport because that was what I had known for literally my entire life. So I had a lot of mental health issues and I was, depressed because I couldn't play. And I mean, being stuck in a bed during COVID is not fun at all because I couldn't go run, stuff like that. Like I would literally bike because in America we were stuck inside. No one would go out. So I started looking at like what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go more into the mental health field. And then with my injury, that kind of came in and played a role, and athletes need advocacy. And so here we don't have anyone that, provides that. And so I really want to help that field grow, and it's really starting in America because it's starting other places in the country, but in America we don't have that resource yet. And throughout my junior and senior year, I kind of dove deeper into that, and I found that's what I'm really passionate about.
Love that. It's interesting to me to hear that because I would consider American sports psychology 10 to 15 years in advance of European sports psychology. But you're right in the sense that it's really the top of the top level that has access to it. And prices in the US are not cheap.
Tell me about it.
for my podcast listeners, that's why you find Americans who work online living in Europe. That's for sure an issue. Obviously, there's a different level with children's psychology as well. A lot of sports psychologists don't work with younger than 15, 16.
Yeah.
And once it gets into child psychiatry in general or psychology, it's more complicated. It's more difficult to work with kids. You can't tell a kid, unfortunately, your parents are the core of your issues.
Yeah.
No, that's a bad joke, but it is difficult, and it is something obviously that's missing. I think teachers need it, coaches need it, the volunteer coaches need it. People who have a huge effect on kids' lives. Yeah, agreed. So I'm happy that you're jumping into it. So what excites you the most about becoming a sports psychologist one day, if that is the end goal or if that is what you do end up doing?
For sure, my end goal. I want to work in a college or university, so maybe I'll leave America. You never know. So I really want to dive into mental health practices, and I really want to eventually work with like the NCAA, and I want to evolve their policies and kind of implement a mental health program that's more updated and is more centered on the athlete. So that's kind of like my priority, especially after I graduate.
That's interesting. So into litigation, into the into the legal side of sports, almost the structural side of sports. That's really an interesting viewpoint on it. Is there something specific you can think of that you think needs changing?
I would say so, because I do want to still do like the clinical and I still want to work with athletes. So I think that every college or university needs a sports psychologist. Like that needs to be a regimen across the board, because at a D3 school like mine, we're a very small school and we don't have a sports psychologist on staff, and there's no policies, put in place for that kind of stuff. And I was actually doing research last week, and there's a lot of places, even in the entire country, that they don't have mental health policies. So I want to like develop a plan. So if someone, experiences struggles with something, that they have somewhere to go, that they have resources, and it's not, how you said, like, some people don't treat kids. Well, in college, it's really hard because you're growing up and, you're going through all these different things in life and you're learning to be on your own. And so a lot of people don't have resources or access to anything.
No, that's amazing that you're saying that. And I think at the same time, if you have, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 student athletes, there are going to be injuries. There are going to be things that mess with these kids' lives. And there needs to be someone there who can help. I think that's where larger clubs, the European style, has somewhat of an advantage, that there can be someone like that on staff, but then again, it's reserved for the people who have the potential to reach those highest levels usually. And it was just this last year that the Portland Trailblazers in the NBA, I'm back to basketball, hired a sports psychologist. And I was really surprised to learn that not even all 30 NBA teams have a sports psychologist on staff. So it's an area that ideally, every single professional sports team should have a person working with the athletes, because the mental game at that level is 90% of it. Like, they're all amazing athletes. And then at the university level, I think counseling doesn't do enough. Having a counselor somewhere and having an actual sports psychologist on staff, if you're over, 400 athletes, which I think every probably college in the US is, really makes a lot of sense. So love that. Interesting. All right, we're going to take our first break and then we'll hop into more questions. Sound good?
Yep.
It is time for me to talk about my upcoming workshop, Planning and Motivation for Non-Planners and Creators of Chaos. If you're here in Prague with me, Tuesday, March 14th from 5:30 to 7:30, we're going to do a workshop at the YMCA Palace here in Prague on how to overcome your inner organized chaos and take control over your life and your plans. We're going to cover self-talk and mindset, creating motivation and understanding our long-term goals and needs over our short-term feelings, tactics for planning for non-planners, clear, tried and tested templates for planning that guarantees us a feeling of choice, lightness, no pressure while sticking to accomplish our goals every day, and working with our thoughts and emotions. Motivation is an emotion, so is laziness, lack of desire, fear of effort, etc. So working with our thoughts and emotions positively is the long-term key to gaining control over our lives. And we are still at pre-sale pricing until midnight of March 7th. So if you're thinking about hopping in, do so soon. You get a little discount and you'll make sure to get a spot in my upcoming workshop. So love to see you there. Hop in. And I'll look forward to seeing you there.
Man, I wish I was in Prague. I'd go to that.
I have a surprise for you later. Not bringing you to Prague. We are back here with the Sports and Psychology podcast. In the first segment, we got a small taste into what Abbe is looking forward to with sports psychology, her background. And here in the second segment, we're going to dive into some of her past and what she sees that could be the most useful in terms of sports psychology. So let's jump in. All right, Abbe, what experience did you have in high school or coming up in sports with sports psychology, if any?
In high school, I didn't really have any experiences because that was kind of the time where everyone's like, oh, mental health, like I don't want to talk about that. And so it was kind of like a hushed thing throughout high school. And you're kind of just there playing your sport. You go to class during the day, and then right after school, you go to practice. But I really saw it when I came to college. Yeah, I mean, that's mainly where I saw it.
So as soon as kids separated from their parents, then it was a topic. I think with COVID, it also became a much larger topic and something okay to suddenly talk about than before. Question, we have, or at least me discussing with other professionals in the field, there seems to be a strong tendency towards thinking that female athletes struggle with mental health more than male athletes. Do you see that tendency or that ladies need more help than guys do?
There's my dog then.
he has an opinion.
I don't think that the statistics are accurate. I think that women talk about it a lot more and probably report it more, and it's less reported in men.
Yeah, there's that. I think the main question or the thing that's talked about the most are eating disorders. And yeah, ladies probably have a stronger tendency towards some sort of eating disorder than most male athletes do. Fine, but it shows up in guys oftentimes differently. I had a therapist once say that most men cover their trauma, they protect themselves with a layer of muscle. So, so I thought that was fun. Next question. In college, before you really, like, you're studying somewhat psychology now, but I'm guessing you didn't have you don't have a sports psychologist at school. What helped you the most to kind of get through those times with the injury, get through COVID, being at home?
Oh, COVID. No, to answer your question, we don't have a sports psychologist. What helped me the most, we had a therapist or like a counselor who had a background in sport, but she wasn't certified or anything. So I actually sought out counseling, and I started kind of addressing what I was going through because, and I think every athlete, especially like being in sideline and involved with them, you go through like your deepest, darkest times without your sport because that's, who you were, that was your identity. So going to counseling really helped me, and that's kind of when I started to realize like, hey, it's okay to kind of go through this, and, it's really okay not to be okay, and kind of just starting to address like how I was feeling and letting my sport, like, that didn't have to define me. And so it was kind of more like finding who you were and then kind of continuing with school.
Thank you for opening up on that. I think all athletes, no matter what happens, goes through a day when they go, who am I without the sport?
Mm-hmm.
I can be a multiple-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, XYZ. The day I retire, I have to face that question, who am I without the sport? Something that we do talk about a lot, or I try and talk about a lot, is this idea of dual careers. Working on that dual identity as early on as possible, not to have ego so tied with the sport, but it's tough, obviously. We can talk about it all we want, but have a great athlete disconnect their confidence, their ego, their self from their sport. It's tough. I get it. So you got counseling. What were you needing or missing at that time, maybe?
And this is no part in the counselor that I was seeing at the time, but my school just was not properly equipped to handle any issues of that sort. Like, I went through times where, like, I did have, like, eating disorder tendencies, and I, was threatened to be pulled from my sport, and it was not handled in the proper way. And everyone, when you're upset about leaving your sport, everyone's kind of like, why are you upset? And that was something that in my mind, I was just like, oh, I need to put on this front and act okay all the time, when realistically, like, I just needed to be heard. And that's kind of when I started to realize that in counseling, I was being heard, and that's when I started to turn things around. So I just think I was missing the resources and the support that I needed, and just the atmosphere, because it was just like everyone was kind of criticizing me and how I was feeling, and it wasn't, if I was going, I wasn't eating enough, then you don't need to pull me from my sport. There's something underlying there, and there's always an underlying reason for different mental health issues.
That's powerful. I think in a lot of ways, this goes back to coaches training, to awareness. And that's interesting that you've been able to bring that into your conscious, to be able to say that I needed attention. I needed people to listen to me and what I was going through, and that's why I behaved in this way. That's really strong, and a lot of good work to bring that to the top. That's amazing. I don't think even a lot of people in therapy get to that point where they're able to say that. So give yourself a pat on the back.
It was hard. I mean, it's kind of like you kind of have to do it yourself, is kind of what I found out. So
a therapist, person with genuine interest, is always going to help, but the work has to be done by the person there. A therapist isn't going to fix your life by themselves. It takes two to tango. Good. So what do non-professional athletes at the university level, if maybe, like, we've talked about the fact that there needs to be someone who understands them at the school, but if you could choose in a different way, maybe a skill or an understanding or something specific that university athletes or even below non-professional athletes could need the most, what do you think that could be?
I actually have two ideas. So I think the first thing that we need is education and resources for performance anxiety, because that's a thing that at any level you could go through, and it's not talked about. Athletes kind of think it's, the pregame jitters, or you're just nervous and that, but it can actually manifest itself into different things. My second one is looking at athletes themselves. So like how you brought in like that identity piece. So kind of like preparing them for life after sport, and just kind of like that pathway, because even in college, like you graduate in 4 years, or if you continue on, you have your 5th year. I mean, it ends at some point unless you're going to go to the professional level, and that can kind of go for even in high school. I mean, if someone's not going to go play in college, that's a level that then you're done. And so I think that kind of goes for all levels too.
And that's interesting that you bring that up, because I think in terms of specializations or what a sports psychologist can bring, that's still outside of it. Mm-hmm. Show me a sports psychologist who actually knows what jobs are available and what a person has skills in and what a person can go out and do outside of the sport. Like a lot of especially sports psychologists like to stay in the realm. I deal with sport and sport only. I'm a much larger fan of dealing with a person as a whole, but that's really interesting. No, having someone with that knowledge of the job market, and if we're talking about the US, it's different for every city as well, and what kind of positions are available at this moment. That means ideally having someone with experience, ideally a recruiter or someone like that for companies, past recruiter, being able to work with kids. That would be amazing. We're back at the money issue, finding money for these kinds of things. But
I mean, even just like helping them though find who they are, like that component too. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be jobs, but just finding what they want to do. Because something that helped me in my retirement and talking with some sideline athletes, like you have to find something that you're passionate about beyond sport. So like maybe you're artistic or musically inclined, so finding something else that you're kind of can put yourself into, that I don't want to say replaces your sport, because you're never going to truly replace your sport, but something else that you can be passionate about like you were, and that gives you like a fulfillment.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to notice or to be aware that fulfillment doesn't necessarily have to come from your job. It can be a hobby, it can be helping others in your free time, what have you. Yes, but finding that fulfillment somewhere, even if it's down the line, extremely important. That's the other piece. It's okay to be fulfilled 10 years from now, but I know that it's coming and I know that I'm going to reach that goal. Awesome. All right. We're running a bit long, so I'm going to hop into the second break and then we'll get to the last piece and get you out of here, hopefully plus minus on time. Okay?
Yep.
It is time for me to talk about my special February offer, Leadership and Conquering Interpersonal Relationships. This is a 10-session program with me, online or in person, for anyone who's an athlete, business owner, manager, or corporate director looking to gain confidence and improve their leadership and interpersonal skills, or anyone looking to become a manager or leader soon, but their social skills and confidence in their leadership abilities are holding them back. What are you going to feel after completing this program? You're going to feel confidence in being a great leader, know clear rules and guidelines on how to deal with difficult team situations, have a common team understanding of the goal and vision, and a feeling of everyone working towards the same goals. We're going to talk about modern management styles, quick communication changes to help your team mood, setting boundaries. Boundaries are huge. Interpersonal awareness, conflict management, showing genuine interest. We talked about that in the episode already. Values, personal and a team vision, how to communicate these things, working with team motivation, building motivation and understanding individual goals and motivations, trust building plans and affirmations at the very end. Now, this program is at a special price, and you can find that at coachingpraha.com. That's coachingpraha.com, and under the coaching section. And the same thing goes with the workshop. You can find the workshop mentioned in the first segment at coachingpraha.com/workshop-registration. All right, we are back, and here in the third segment, we're finishing our interview with Abbe. Yay! So, Abbe, what technique, habit, or tool from your sports days do you consider to be the most important and still used today?
Oh, it's a hard one. I think I would say mindfulness, because that is something that I had to learn throughout my injuries and stuff, was to be more mindful of things around me. And something that I learned from counseling, which is actually my favorite thing to do, is find like the silver linings in your day. So even though you might be having a tough day, I got to see my friends today, or I got to go to class today, being thankful for those little things. And mindfulness is actually something you can use before games, so you can be intentional about, feeling the grass, or, just your surroundings, and then it can help ground you and get you ready for the big game.
I love both of those things. Gratitude, yes. There's no one who's happy or content without gratitude. And in terms of mindfulness, it's interesting that you put it that way. Do you have a specific mindfulness technique or run through that you do, or you just ground yourself and you're noticing everything at once?
I like to do my surroundings first. So something that's really common in mindfulness is your 5 senses. So you can go through that before a game. My junior year, when I kind of learned this and stuff when I was still playing, I like to look at my teammates and kind of see what they were doing and kind of be intentional about them. And then, my coach, what the other team is doing, just kind of get intact with the game. And then you kind of, you're I feel more focused after I do it. And I like doing it before tests and stuff too, because then you kind of get, your full focus.
100%. No, psychologists talk about separating the brain into two halves, the problem-solving side and the noticing side. And the way to turn off the problem-solving side to give it a break and to reset is to turn on the noticing side. So yes, and so turning on the noticing side means we're able then to turn on the problem-solving side in a way that we're ultra-focused on a given task, that you don't find flow without mindfulness. I really like that. Love that answer. Thank you. So last question here from my side. What are you in the process of working on currently? Is there something that you're, other than graduating, of course, is there something that you're working on? And where's your personal development currently moving? What are you working on personally?
Currently, I am working with a professor at Defiance we're trying to get a baseline of our athlete mental health, and we're waiting on IRB approval, so this is all pending right now. But we're looking to administer like a mental health screening and get a baseline of how athletes' mental health is at our college, and then hopefully in the future, then use that to implement like a yearly screening. And that's something that even when I move, because I'm also in the process of moving after I graduate, but when I go to Texas, that's something that I can still work on. And so it's going to be kind of a longitudinal process. And so I'll always have communication with that professor. And hopefully then we can have regular screening, because that's also something that can help, especially with early intervention. So I'm working on that. And then, graduating and getting to moving.
All right. And answer that second question for me. Where is your personal growth leading in the biggest area right now? What are you working yourself on in terms of just personal development?
I still go to therapy. I am very open about that, and I love therapy. I think everyone should go. So I'm kind of working on finding who I am. So obviously everyone has trauma, so you have to work through that to kind of find who you really are. And so I'm kind of in the process of, speaking up for myself and learning what I want to do. And being selfish isn't always a bad thing. And so being selfish, finding what I want to do and finding what I'm passionate about, just that kind of process.
Love that. That's interesting to think about and hear from an athlete as well, because we have that stereotype with athletes that, well, athletes are selfish.
Yeah.
But I think team sports in many ways teaches us not to be. And love that. Love the fact that you're working on yourself in that way, trying to find that identification with something that you like and want to go out there and beat the world with. Take over. Love it. All right. So thank you, Abbe, for joining us here today. Thank you all for listening. I hope that this has been a fun interview for you. I truly enjoyed it myself. And if you have other ideas, comments, or just completely disagree with me, make sure you send me an email at sportsandpsychologypod@gmail.com, and I'll definitely respond. Abbe, where can people find you?
All my social media is ARANK 2001. Those are all my usernames and stuff: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Well, actually, I don't really use Facebook, but my LinkedIn, I think, is just Abbe Rank, and I spell my name uniquely, so it's ABBE. So you guys can reach out if you have any questions or just want to talk, because sideline athletes need a community too.
Love that. Absolutely. And no one's really a sideline athlete. Everyone's part of the team. Everyone's participating. Come on now. You're helping the team in your own way. We all need that, especially in obscure places where fans don't show up, or obscure sports. No, all right. I think it's great to know today that hearing interviews, hearing from others is also a great way for us to learn about ourselves, for us to learn about how we want to affect the world. And yeah, having a bio, having an interview is an amazing way for us to change our worldview. So make sure to practice that genuine interest with others, dear listener. All right. Thank y'all for listening or watching here on YouTube to the Sports and Psychology Podcast. Please tell your friends if you like this podcast. I am streaming every week, everywhere you can find podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If you want to get your questions into a mailbag or give me your thoughts, give me a comment below on YouTube or reach out on Instagram at athlete.m1ndset, Twitter, athlete mindset, that's athlete m1ndset, or email at sportsandpsychologypod@gmail.com. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button while you're still here, and make sure to leave that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And in the words of Jabari Walker, Portland Trailblazers rookie, don't let today get the best of you, get the best of today. And Abbe, before I completely close out, thank you for being a guest here. And my thank you to you is I'd like to offer you a free coaching session with me if you'd like to take that up. We're in contact, so feel free to reach out. And that's my offer. That's my thank you for hopping on here with me. Little surprise for you here at the end.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right. Have a great week, everyone, and I will talk to you next week.